REI Co-op presents a perfect outdoor moment with the perfect gift. Picture this. You're ripping with your favorite person. Bluebird skies, blower powder, and frankly, you're skiing like legends.
So sick. Another lap?
Thanks to REI's curation, from lid to sticks, you nailed the gift.
No way. How'd you know?
Does it get more perfect than that? Give without guessing. Shop in store or visit rei.com.
It's 7v7 soccer. Smaller the pitch, faster the action. The world's elite soccer clubs compete for their share of a massive $5 million prize. Catch World Sevens on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max December 5th through the 7th.
And now, a message from McAfee.
Your package couldn't be delivered.
You owe thousands in unpaid tolls!
You want a free gift.
If texts like these sound familiar, McAfee can help. McAfee automatically identifies text and email scams, as well as AI-generated audio, to help you stay safe. If they're faking it, they're not making it past us. Get award-winning scam detection today. McAfee.com/keepitreal.
Looking for ways to keep the kids entertained while traveling? Netflix Games lets them jump into fun, creative adventures at no extra cost. Everything's unlocked with your Netflix membership. From Paw Patrol Academy and Lego Duplo World to Barbie color creations and World of Peppa Pig, there's something for every little explorer. And you don't need Wi-Fi. Kids can play anytime, anywhere. Visit netflixfamily.com/travel tips for all your kids' holiday entertainment.
At the Musial with Alan and Daniel, we'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. Everyone come gather round, listen to your favorite sound. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We'll talk the games and all the rest, about the team that we love best. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We're gonna talk about the Cardinals all night long.
Good morning. Welcome into another edition of Meet Me at Musial. I'm your host, Dan Shop.C70. With me, as always, Alan Medlock, Medlock1 on Twitter, coming to you Saturday morning, December 6th. Here it is, week after Thanksgiving. Finally starting to really get into all that Christmas rush. Alan, you and I were talking beforehand. You're get through this coming week, and it's kind of a downhill slide for you at work, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You get into, I have one more full week, and it's full of basketball and wrestling. And then we have finals the week after on the 16th and 17th. So give it a couple weeks, and that first semester is over. So it happens quickly. I was looking at the weather. We're low 30s today and have been for most of the week. We had a couple of days that were really, really cold here. And it dawned on me. I was like, hey, it's in the winter. I mean, it seems like 2 weeks ago we were starting school.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how fast it gets to this point. I don't realize it either. It just is. It's all of a sudden, here we are less than a month from 2026, and we're going to start it all over again. And that's going to be an interesting thing, because 2026 should be a very interesting year for the Cardinals. I don't know if it's going to be a good year, but it'll be interesting. But we got to get there first.
Yes.
Been some business already with the Cardinals. There's probably more coming up. There's a few things that have happened since we've had a chance to record last, but of course the biggest one is a trade of Sonny Gray to Boston for a couple of pitchers. How surprised were you that this happened, one, this early, and two, before anything else?
When I saw the Athletic headline, when I got the update, my initial reaction was surprise, and I was like, oh, But let's see let's see the return. I don't know why I was more surprised it was Boston, but it seems like that's a perfect fit. Um, to bring back a guy that's ready for the rotation, that's probably going to fit the model of what they're going to do. I really like with the high upside minor leaguer. I I would say that I was slightly surprised that this was the first move because I thought that this would be the one that they rested on the most because we know that that's what they were going to need, and I felt like that plotted a direction that I don't know. It's invigorating to me to see that it was moved, and now you see the Contreras talk of hey, he may be more amicable to a move at this point, and I don't know. I think it's the small victories that I'm trying to take away at this point. I mean, I'm clearly excited about the direction and the way that this is going, but to see this move first was one to me that I was like, okay, I mean, they mean business. It moved the guy that I felt like they probably needed the most just because of the innings shortage that could potentially be ahead. But no, slightly surprised when I saw it and was kind of excited to see that it was the move that was made.
Yeah, I think it was interesting that, we got when the season ended, it was like Sonny Gray was open to being traded, but he didn't have to be, whereas, Nolan Arenado is one of those, they need to really move him. And I think we can discuss maybe later whether that's even possible. But I don't know. I never got the impression I think Sonny Gray wanted to go somewhere else, but I don't know that he was like demanding to go somewhere else, And so, yeah, I mean, given that they needed pitching, I could see them holding on for him, if nothing else, to see how the market went. Now, that may be part of what they did is try to get ahead of the market before some of these pitchers signed.
Yeah.
The offers were there. And obviously they got the guys that they wanted. But I didn't have Sonny Gray going first on my bingo card, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
I would have thought maybe that would have been a thing where they would have maybe tried to somehow engage a bidding war. But, with Sonny Gray having the no trade clause, it may have been, and after Nolan Arenado last year, when they got a deal that they could they may have just gone ahead and gone straight to Sonny and make sure that it was good before and not try to drag this out. Maybe they could have gotten more if they had, but they got two pitchers they liked. They got Sonny moved early on, and they didn't have to worry about coming into spring training with a guy that they didn't really that they would rather have moved.
Yes, absolutely. That's yeah, and I like the fact that it is a just moving and shaking. There's a lot of action behind the talk, and I like that. And you're right. I mean, I think that all signs were pointing to Donovan being gone quickly, and I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I still do believe that he's traded, but I think that at one point, probably our last show, I was thinking it was 100%. I mean, I think may it be downgraded maybe down to a 98 because I think that they're going to move they're going to move the contracts potentially first.
I mean, I think it's possible. In one, because it's fine to keep, a Donovan or a Newt Bar or something like that. If they have to keep them for another year, no big deal.
Yeah.
You want to move these others. I do wonder if at some point they move Donovan and maybe somebody else because there's not a market for Arenado. They're like, okay, we need to plan for Arenado to come back because we're not seeing it out there. So let's go ahead and trade Donovan and let's go ahead and trade, Gorman or whoever it may be. And if something happens late in the winter or early spring that works, sure, you trade him anyway because it's not like you're planning to compete. You figure out you can find a way to cover the ground. But I don't think that Chaim Bloom is going to do what John Mozeliak did last year and let the Arenado thing hold up everything else. I mean, we've already seen it, right? Sonny Gray's gone. Last year, Mo said, hey, we're trading Nolan Arenado. And they waited and waited and waited and waited to do anything until they traded Nolan, and of course they never did.
Yeah, yeah. that adds to some of the intrigue about how things will play out moving forward. I mean, it's I would say that's probably they're gonna be definitely a team to watch. In in the winter meetings this week, and it's in a way that we're never. I don't know if we've ever seen such movement of guys moving out and an accumulation of talent being the plan of being the Cardinals that are moving the guys out. I don't remember an off season that's like this for St. Louis, and I know that people are going to roll their eyes because like, well, that's what a rebuild is. But I'm just saying, I don't know if they've ever been. I don't know if they've ever been in the headlines of teams most likely to make moves one way or the other at a winter meeting.
They've maybe occasionally been in one of those teams to watch to be adding somebody. I mean, you remember the year that they got Ozuna and all that. They were doing some moves there, but yeah, they're not the big thing. I mean, you probably have to go back to Whitey Herzog's winter meetings, and those were totally different, right? I mean, those were just him trying to remake the team in the way they wanted, but it didn't have the expectations about it that they do now. So yeah, I think this is something that we haven't seen because I mean, we haven't seen a rebuild, and I don't think there's any doubt that the Cardinals are going to use that term this year. Last year it was reboot, reset. Use the runway,
Yeah.
whatever, all that. When you trade Sonny Gray, even though you don't have 5 pitchers, you're in a rebuild. You're not necessarily tearing it down to the studs. You're not tanking. You're not doing anything like that, but you are doing a rebuild that's going to take 2 or 3 years to come to fruition. And I think that's what makes the Cardinals such an interesting thing this coming week is because not only do you have the veterans that could move, the names, the stars that could move because they're at the end of their deals and they want to go somewhere that's contending, but you've got young talent that is going to be hitting free agency about the time you're contending, and if you're not going to have them on the next great Cardinal team, you might as well go ahead and trade them while they have value. And that's not something the Cardinals have done over the last few years. They have waited till the last minute to try to trade somebody and even past that.
Yeah. That's we're in a new trend here, and I think that I speak for a lot of people in saying that it's nice just to have a direction at this point, and to see some follow through in the beginning. And like I said, I am not I was a Mosaic fan. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I try not to be an apologist here. But it's refreshing just to see that some of the actions are matching the talk, and I think that Gray being the first move speaks volumes.
Yeah, I think it definitely sets a new tone for this, and it indicates that Heimblum is approaching it differently. I think we've talked a lot about how are we going to know, the difference between Heimblum and John Mozeliak, and I think we're already starting to see it. And there's a little bit more openness, maybe some as well. I think Heimblum has been a little bit more of like. He hasn't said, "Hey, we're about to trade this guy," but he's a little bit more open to these things are out there, or this is what we want to do, maybe than Mo was. So I think, man, I think next week should be kind of interesting, because I mean, if you were to guess, how many trades do the Cardinals make over the next week?
Oh man, over the next week. I'm going to guess 3, which I think is a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know how major they will be, but I think there will be a lot of movement. I mean, I think that you're going to see one, if not both, of Newtbar and Donovan moved, and I worry about Burleson a little bit. And then you lay those 3 names out, and then you potentially go with the Contreras. I wouldn't necessarily at the meetings 3, maybe 1, if not 2 at the meetings, but I do think that there's 3 or 4 moves that are made in the offseason.
Yeah, I think that I mean I don't know. A part of me is like just getting one trade done is hard enough, right? And so if I get one done this week, that would mean something. But we don't know how close. We've talked about transparency. They're still not telling us, hey, we're 90% of the way done on trading these guys. That's
Yeah,
just not the way
well,
that
and
works.
that's to me just reading some of the reporting that's out there, whether there's legitimacy to it or not. I mean,
Mhm.
I feel like there's enough of a Newt Bar rush, there's enough of a Romero rush, a
Mhm.
Donovan, a
Yeah.
Burleson potentially, and now Contreras. I think will probably be out the door, which I know that we had talked about for a while, and I almost think it's a certainty at this point. I think that a lot of those guys are going to be moved, and I don't know if any money, and I don't know if there's any movement of those that includes one or the other, and potentially maybe a Romero. That's
Yeah.
that's with somebody.
Yeah. There were some articles out this week about the Mariners being interested in both Donovan and Romero. Do you make a trade that puts both of them together and get some better pieces back? Um, you know, more than you could if you've separated them. I don't know. Maybe that's the situation. It wouldn't be. I don't think I would be too surprised if it was a multiple player deal wherever, whatever, what happened. Because I think, I mean, there's definitely a need for quantity, but there's such a need for quality that it may be if you can step up to a team's top prospect versus their fifth prospect or something like that,
Yeah,
then maybe you go ahead and combine the two and get that done versus the fifth prospect here and the seventh prospect over there.
yeah. Do you think that they're going to stockpile a lot of top 15 guys from other organizations?
I think they'd like to. Of course, again, top 15, a top 15 of the Dodgers is a different than the top 15 of the Cardinals or whatever the case may be. But I think they will probably target at least getting one of those guys in these trades, especially for not Arenado and probably not Contreras. But if you're trading, especially Donovan, you're going to be looking at top prospects. I think Newt Bar, if the demand for Newt Bar is what apparently it is from some of the reporting, that they're not too worried about the fact that Newt, and I think this was in one of Katie's articles, Newt might miss up to a month of next year. I mean, I guess that's a
Yeah,
worst case scenario.
that moving target was interesting. I thought,
Mm-hmm.
because it was like ready by opening day, maybe miss some time to where you may not see him till May. I was like, well, that's kind of crazy, and that's gonna. I do think that affects the market. I said, there's been some reporting out there that it won't, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. It's kind of yeah. I want now. It makes you wonder if they're going to keep him and he doesn't play to the break.
I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised at that. I mean, you're right. It is a little bit surprising, but then again, it's not. I mean, if you're buying Newt Bar, you're buying his potential, right? You're not buying what he's done. And you'd have him for 26 and 27. So missing a couple of weeks out of 2 seasons is not necessarily the worst thing. Um, but you're buying those underlying metrics. You're not buying what he's actually done, and you think you can make an adjustment here or there. So, I mean, I can almost understand. Yeah, that injury doesn't. If he was going to be out till the break or something like that, or if there was some indication. Now we don't never. We continue to remember Tommy Edmonds, so we never know exactly when these guys are coming back. But there doesn't seem to be an indication it's going to be that much of a problem for Newbar. Um, I don't know. I think they would probably still trade him, because I don't think even if it is a discount, it's not as much of a discount as maybe waiting a half season could be. Unless he,
Yeah,
unless he. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm trying to decide. I don't know if he could still bring back a top 15 prospect from an organization, he might be able to, although that might be about all you get.
Yeah, it's I'm curious to see what kind of high guys they get out of other organizations
Mm-hmm.
for some of the people that they do move, and if it's more of a stockpile and talent accumulation. I want to see the variability on that. I mean, I'm terrible in the minor league guys anyway, other than
Right.
the top prospects, but I'll be curious to see what they bring back.
And I think it's going to be also interesting to see what they bring back in the fact of, the first trade with Sonny Gray, they brought back 2 pitchers. Are they going to continue to just, focus on pitching, or is there going to be a time where they're going to bring in an outfielder or even an infielder, even though you've got, seemingly log jams already? If you can get talent, if you can get a very talented outfielder, maybe you go that way. I don't know. I think that's going to be kind of interesting. I assume that pitching is going to be the main focus, but I'm going to be interested to see if they get any kind of notable talent that is, hitting.
Yeah, good call. Um, some high upside bats. Yeah,
Yeah.
you wonder because everything has kind of led to an accumulation of arms, but yeah, you want to see if they get somebody that can hit their way, i.e., Weatherholt, quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be, I mean, and then, draft lottery is this coming week. We'll find out if the Cardinals, where they draft, but odds are they're going to draft in the top 10. They got a competitive balance pick, so they're going to pick after the first round there. They've got a real, and from what I understand, it's a fairly good class coming out. They've got a real good chance of getting that kind of boost to the, what they've seen in the last couple of years, maybe even more so with what they've got a chance to pick coming up in July of this coming year.
Yeah, I wish there was a day that there could, and I think it's coming, where you can trade draft picks in MLB.
Mm.
The that would be interesting because with the slot money value and all kinds of stuff like that, which kind of limits your ability to trade now. But I would like to see. Um, I'd like to see a day when that happens, just because it would be interesting in a Cardinal situation this year.
Yeah. I mean, and you can trade the competitive balance picks. I know, I can't remember who I saw. I guess it was probably Richard McGill over his Substack. Had a couple of proposed trades for Brendan Donovan. Both of them had, the Cardinals acquiring a team's competitive balance pick as well to have another pick in this draft. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it could be even after this next CBA. I don't know how you look at. I mean, would it be, would that allow for smaller teams to then get more draft picks so they could get better, or would it just wind up being that the Pirates continue to draft really well and develop players and then trade them off when they can't pay them? I mean, is it like do they become a minor league for the Dodgers and the Yankees and stuff like that? So I don't know, but I think there's a value to be able to trade that or either the picks or the money, and make it a little bit more interesting. But we'll see. Yeah, it wouldn't. You're right. I think like I said, being able to trade those competitive balance picks has been the proof of concept, and I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if it's in this one, but maybe the next CBA will allow for that.
Yeah, we'll probably see a lot of movement on the next CBA.
Hopefully, but we'll see.
That's true. Or absolutely none.
Yeah. If we see, we may not see any baseball either. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's true. Unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, have a good feeling about what's going on there yet, but you still got another year unless the players go out early. Which I haven't heard any. I think of '94. The players went on strike before they could be locked out. I don't know that I've heard any indication that that's what happened here. That they probably make it through the whole 26 season, but that's the hope at least. So yeah, and there's been a few other smaller moves out there. The Cardinals, in an interesting move, re-signed Yoel Pozo. Now, obviously, we all love Pozo, and we're always glad to have him. But that currently, assuming Yvonne Herrera is actually going to get behind the plate again next year, that currently gives you 5 catchers on the 40-man roster. Now, again, those could be pieces for trades, but I was really surprised to see them go and get Pozo, especially this early in the offseason.
Yeah, yes, considering that I think we were all had kind of written that off of, hey, that's a good feel good story, but it's going to be an overage, and there's other guys, knocking on the door, and I know some aren't close, but you had the minor league Gold Glove winner, and all kinds of stuff that stockpiled this catcher to see that they were willing to bring him back so quickly. Yeah, it's probably drawing too many, trying to draw too many conclusions on that. But it's one of the more minor league depth type situation. As a catcher, you're probably going to need multiple guys, and one of your guys may not end up as a catcher who you potentially could be. Your number one may not end up to be a catcher at all in a Herrera. So it makes a little bit of sense. I'm still kind of surprised, depending on what all movement we see.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess Leonardo Barnall might go back to Springfield, although he had a full year there last year. He had a little taste of it the year before. But if not, if he goes to Memphis, and right now you would think it would be Crooks and Bernal kind of splitting time at Memphis. No place for Pozo to play down there, even when he can go. I mean, he can go to the minors, but do you keep 3 catchers on your starting? Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it's just security in case, Herrera really is going to wind up playing outfield or first base or something of that nature. And does that, is that a hedge of the bets of trading Contreras? I mean, because if they trade Contreras, you think that Burleson gets that spot, right? But maybe they move Herrera there. I don't know. I mean, obviously moving a catcher there worked once before, but I mean, is that possible?
Well, yeah. I mean, I had thought about that. I mean, I don't know why. I guess that we should reserve judgment to see if his elbow was really the problem this whole time. And it's not that there's a doubt involved, but I mean, he was injured. Clearly was. He had,
Right.
he required surgery. But it's a deal of are the metrics out there to show that he's not going to be a long-term catcher, and you have to have that bat in the lineup, one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a guy that you're going to have to build around. I feel that way about Burleson too, but I think Burleson is a guy that could probably be moved pretty quickly, which I don't want to see that happen, but it could potentially happen. Or will that be a shared time type deal between first base and the outfield with him, which would open up the Herrera deal? I think that probably makes a lot of sense. I don't know. I think there's some Gorman trade factors that probably go into that as well, but I don't know. I mean, it's the Herrera deal is interesting to me. I mean, considering you have 2 kind of situations that can act as an albatross of the Herrera, can he catch, and Arenado, can you find a dealer? Somebody that's willing to make that move that could fluctuate a whole heck of a lot of the lineup if either of those moves, and definitely if both of those moves were to be made.
Yeah, it's weird, I guess, to some degree, especially after the last couple seasons, to be in this kind of flux right now. Because the last couple of years, you kind of knew what everything was going to be, right? You knew who was going to be playing where. And now you got Mason Wynn at shortstop, and Victor Scott in center, and that may be the only 2 positions that especially for opening day, that you can put in place right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you may have guys that you may think Gorman's going to be on this team, but you don't necessarily know what position he's going to play, and things of that nature. And Herrera the same way. I think that's when you think about it and think about how much uncertainty there is on everything. I mean, that makes for an interesting offseason, at least.
Yeah. That's there's a lot of the things that we had talked about on this are things that add a little bit of the positive energy to me to the off season, just to see what's going to move, what's going into who's going to stay, what kind of can you go and get a steal from somebody that's a little bit desperate, and those are things that I don't know if we've I don't know if I felt this way in a long time, knowing that the expectations are going to be low, but the energy is high, and I think the outcomes may be better next year, just due to some of the different mindsets.
I mean, it's possible. But boy, that starting rotation. I mean, it's. I mean, one, not filled, and two, the people that are in it are so
Sure,
questionable. I mean, you don't have that, and we know Sonny Gray was kind of. I mean, again, underlying numbers were better than his overall, but he was still a little bit hit and miss last year with the home runs, and you just never knew if you were going to get the Sonny Gray that could go 7 or 8 innings and just shut down a team, or a guy that was going to go 5 and just kind of barely make it through.
sure.
So, but even that, without having him there, I worry about a stretch, in August, and again, a lot of things will change between them, but or at some point in time where these pitchers just get blasted for 4 or 5 days in a row.
I could see that as well.
And that's hard.
Yeah, I think you're going to get, and this is just coming from maybe the overly optimistic viewpoint. I think that you're going to get a group of guys that are playing like 40-man roster players that are playing for a spot next year, and I think that can be good and bad. Because I think you can have a good couple of first months of the season if everything starts out well, but yeah, the truth will come out in time, and you're going to be short of innings, and you're going to be short of quality innings maybe at one point. But I still think that you're going to start seeing some upside guys make their debut. I think that you're probably looking at a definite weather hold if he doesn't make the opening day roster. You're going to see him at some point next year. I think you will probably see, Matthews at some point next year, almost definitely. And guys that we've been talking about for 3 or 4 years that are ready, that are primed and ready, and are knocking on the door, and I don't think they're going to rush him into the situation, but I think that success I think that they're gonna kick the door down instead of knocking on it when it's necessary, and that's some exciting outlook to me. I think that I think that there's just I think change was necessary this offseason, if not necessarily 2 off seasons ago. I think that we've been putting some band-aids on some things, which I was okay with, because you avoided the rebuild aspect of it. Well, now that you wrap your mind around it and be like, hey, this is actually kind of cool, and you move your number one in your rotation, which you kind of felt was going to happen after the comments that were made on the West Coast that, hey, he came here to win, it's not happening. He's kind of willing to move that no trade. You thought it was, you knew it was a reality, but you didn't think it was the first reality that was coming.
Right.
And you stockpile 2 arms right away with that, and one which will probably be in the rotation from day one. I think there's going to be some youthful hunger that's coming with the rotation. I think that overall, I think there's going to be a positive mindset that's coming out of the full organization period, and I think that you could see that in a lot of the interviews that the front office is giving now. Of, hey, we know where we are, and we know that we're going to have to stockpile here, and we're going to have to develop. We are going to have to develop in the developmental side of this by bringing in names and bringing in bodies and bringing in teachers, and all of that's exciting, and leads me to think that, hey, the outcomes here could be good, and the ultimate reward could be great.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal, that's the hope, that you're putting together a team that here in 2 or 3 years kind of starts looking like those, probably you would like it to be the 12, 13, 14, 15 teams, that was really developed. A lot of those were internal guys. I mean, there had some free agents on them, but there was a lot of internal guys. You're riding Wainwright. That was Scotty was there for a while. Of course, you still had Molina, but Molina was there for eons. And teams that were good. I mean, the 13 team goes to the World Series. The 15 team wins 100 games. They're all in the playoffs. That kind of thing is what you're looking for. With Matt Carpenter's and that mix and stuff of that nature. And so that's what you hope that you get back to. And I think this, it's got to be a lot of fun for Heimblum to come in and know that he can do it his way, right? He's not taking over a team that's been successful for the last few years and kind of needs to not upset the apple cart, try to
Yes.
maybe upgrade, but not, you know, in his image, if you will. Now he gets to do it the way he wants to do it. Now there's a lot of pressure on that as well, because if it doesn't go well, it's there's nobody to blame, but you can't say it's blaming on the old players, because the old players aren't here anymore.
Yeah.
This is all in Heimblum's lap. And I obviously there's you got to wait a long time to see how this plays out, but hopefully, again, by 27 or 28, probably more like 28, you've got a team that you really feel confident is going to be a playoff team, and hopefully a deep playoff team.
Yeah. Does your estimation of 28 strictly stem from pitching development?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay.
It's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine the team that they have right now, you know, being ready with just a season under their belt, right?
Yeah.
I mean, going up into 27, and again, assuming we have a 27, but going into 27 with just 1 year of Heimblum, of Weatherholt, maybe Weatherholt's come up and done well, but then again, are you ready for him in the second year? You worry about that kind of stuff. Are these pitchers going to take that step? I think more than anything, yeah, I think by 28, you should have Matthews, you should have Doyle in the rotation. Some of these other guys that have been
Yeah.
drafted the last couple of years maybe have made their debut, gotten settled. And then, hopefully your offense is still young enough that, that's the 27 off season. You go out and you buy the free agent that you need, and hopefully that puts you on a course for 28. That's, I think, the ideal thing.
Sure. Well, and that's what I was asking as far as the development. Is 28 one of those that you could see a 26 and 27, all outliers kicked out? You know what I mean? A
Yeah.
26 and 27 season. As the 27 season going into 28, the one that your pitching's ready to where you can maybe upgrade somewhere and really be good. That was kind of where I was going.
Right.
My next
Right.
question was going to be, so if the pitching's developed and you feel like you're at that next step, is that where you see them potentially buying?
Yeah.
And
I would think so.
yeah, and that runs that, and that makes sense because it kind of goes up against some of the contracts that they have, and you're going to be knocking on the door of some, I would say, um, you're pretty safe in youth because you're not up against any contractual obligations at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. You shouldn't be. I mean,
Yeah,
depending on who's, do you have, if you still have a Newt Bar or you still have a Gorman on your team, that you may be losing them, but, um, chances are, if they're a key part of this team, they've re-signed them. If they're not, they probably let them go
sure.
or traded them. Yeah, I think that's, and and who knows, that free agent could be a pitcher that just that gives them that extra edge. It could be a hitter, who knows? But I didn't. And could they surprise in 27? Yeah, but I don't think. I think that's one of those things that it's a team that maybe it peaks a little early or something like that. But that, I don't think you plan on them. I think you plan on them being better in 27. I don't think you're looking at a last place team or anything, but I don't think you plan on them being a playoff team in 27. If it happens, great, but I think 28 is probably a lot closer to the viewpoint. And I think if you start looking at it, and I think 28 works for me, because if you start saying, well, no, it's not going to be till 29 or 30, that's a long time, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's some of these guys, like you said, are starting to run into those. If a Matthews came up now by 30, he's getting into arbitration and all that kind of stuff already. I think that I think 28, they really need to be a team that at least should be a contender for a playoff spot, if not a slam dunk.
Yeah, the that makes sense. I could see them just by how things have uh, have started to um, have started to look, and feel, I could see them surpassing some projections in 27 to where you
Mhm.
could kind of start seeing the signs that, hey, they may be on the road back,
Yeah.
to where you think, okay, that's a good rotation. If they had A, B, or C, well, they can
Mhm.
go get A, B, or C and really make a run. And I think at that, I I feel like the Central is going to be like this for a while. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like it's going to be Milwaukee's to lose because Milwaukee's the hot ticket. Does that make sense? And the Cubs
Yeah.
haven't completely shown to me that that they're willing to change their ways of going out and just spending big. I mean, I felt like you brought in Tucker to kind of convince him, but I don't know if that was ever the plan. I think that they brought in Tucker this year to kind of take their shot this year.
Yeah, I mean, the Cubs do feel like a team that's gonna be good, but not necessarily go over the top. I do wonder about Milwaukee just because, I mean, it's kinda like what we saw with the Cardinals. They were good for a long, long time, but at some point in time, it catches up with you, and we've continued to, I think we always kept thinking, like, not that Milwaukee's doing it with smoke and mirrors, but a little bit of that,
Yeah,
that we're not really 100% sure. Every year we go into this thinking, okay, this is the year Milwaukee's like 4th, and they wind up winning the division again. So, yeah, there's some magic, there's some organizational advantages, there's some, philosophy that works, but I also wonder how long that lasts.
sure.
But yeah, I think right now they're still the favorite for a while. I mean, the Reds could be if they wanted to spend, but and I know there's some talk about them getting Schwarber this winter, but I don't think that's enough to put them into a favorite position. Um, and you're never going to feel like the Pirates, even with Skeens and stuff like that. And they're talking about spending and adding. They might be able to be a middling team, but you're never going to expect them to be a playoff team. So it's really the Cubs and the Brewers. And if the Cubs aren't willing to go out and spend the money, um, I think it's probably just as likely. Yeah, Milwaukee's got it for a couple of years.
Sure, and it's I kind of feel like the division is what it is for a little while, and
Hmm.
it may be one of those. It is what it is until St. Louis is potentially back.
Yeah. That being said, it is what it is until it isn't, right? I mean, and I
Yep,
think it's very easy for us, and I'm exactly the same way, to think things are just going to continue to be the same for X number of years, and we look out, but every year is different, and Milwaukee looks good, but if people get old, people get hurt, all of a sudden they fall out of it. Maybe that means they make a trade, and then all of a sudden, maybe that triggers some sort of spiral. So many different variables, but yeah, looking at it right now, it feels like the division's kind of stable.
yeah, yeah. Well put. The And Milwaukee may look different. I mean, they're gonna trade who you could potentially say is their strictly one or two this offseason, and to try to get better and to play the money game they have to. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting at what has happened. Where at one point it looked like there may be three good teams, and now it's one of those that you're just trying to keep up with the West.
And you wonder, I think it's possible the Cardinals kind of fell a little bit into this trap at some points in times, and you wonder if Milwaukee will as well, of the idea of we don't have to go 100% because this division is weak, and you know us at 80% is better than the rest of the division. And I think that's where some of the Cardinals' complacency came in. Of we can band-aid this, we can try this or that, and we can get to 85, 88, 90, maybe 90 wins, but that's good enough to win this division, and so we don't have to pull out all the stops. I wonder if the Cardinals had been in a more competitive division, something like 2015, when Cardinals won 100 and the Cubs won 97
Yeah,
and the Pirates won 96, would that have changed their philosophy over the last few years? With that, I mean, I don't know how, unless they would have been more open to spending money. But um, I think that this idea of we can get by in this weaker division didn't help them, and it's a trap that Milwaukee has to avoid as well.
yeah. That's That's a good point. We've seen the best of times and the worst of times.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, well, I wouldn't even say the worst of times, but it can happen quickly, quicker than you expected. Really.
absolutely. Absolutely. The Cardinals did pick up another pitcher yesterday in Zach Kent from Cleveland. It doesn't feel like that's a move that makes a whole lot of difference. It was, he gets added to the 40 man, but it also feels like that's one of those kind of guys that comes to spring training, and if it didn't work, they release him pretty quickly. I don't know how much money I would put on Zach Kent actually pitching for the Cardinals next year.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a depth piece, right?
Yeah, I think so. He does have a fourth option year, what Gerald Gould said, so you can send him down. He doesn't have a whole lot that really stands out. You look at his minor league numbers and everything. Nothing seems to. So it does feel like it's we might need some innings. We might need somebody here. And maybe, again, maybe this development team, and again, Cervolio, so there's a guy that knows Cleveland's system some, although it looked like Kent may have bounced around some, so I don't know how much connection there is. It may be that they see something and say, okay, if we add this pitcher, if we tinker with this. And I think we're getting to that point again, right? That we feel like maybe the Cardinals development can do that versus in the last few years where it was like, we remember the Dave Duncan days where you brought in a guy that was terrible and taught him how to throw it on the ground and all of a sudden became an all-star. I think we're getting back to that idea of, okay, well, maybe this group of people can add a pitch or get more spin or something of that nature, where we haven't been that in the last few years.
Yeah, there's a pitching direction, like not that it was not that they were clueless the past couple of years. It was just trying to figure out the formula how this is going to work. I just everything just seems like it's falling into place. I'm not saying that they're going to win a World Series in the next 3 years, but I just feel like there's a refreshing feeling to things that were going on because you can kind of piece together what an organizational direction looks to be, and that it just lost its way a little bit, and you can see that they're stockpiling some arms that are fitting the same model. And like you said, you remember that you always felt good on the pieces that you brought in that were kind of cast off from other organizations because Duncan and those guys really did a good job of developing the sinker slider model to where, hey, you throw this, you get it on the ground, you go deep in games, trust your defense and you're going to be good to go. You're going to compete, then get to the bullpen where La Russa was strong. You could kind of see some of those things coming back. Not necessarily that's the model they're going to go with, but at least there is going to be a model, so to speak. Like I said, it's refreshing. It's quiet. It's fun right now, and even maybe it's because of the low expectations that it's fun. It's like, hey, I'm ready to go to the ballpark next year just to see who's there on the 25-man roster for that certain weekend because it may look different, quite a bit throughout the season. And some of those guys, maybe the ones that we've seen come to Tulsa with Springfield in the past couple of years, and those are exciting moves.
It also helps that this model that we're seeing is much more in line with baseball now, with the high strikeouts and things of that nature. Now, I have no idea if Liam Doyle's going to have a better career than Dakota Hudson, right? I mean, Dakota Hudson, for all his faults, did have a number of years in the major leagues, did have some success. Jake Woodford, those kind of guys as well. They weren't necessarily the most fun to watch, but they wound up having to, they had a major league career, which is more than some people can say. We like to feel like Doyle's going to have, this one, but no matter what, it's more exciting to have that kind of arm in the system. I mean, nobody ever got terribly excited about Dakota Hudson, right? But if you get a guy that has the high strikeout numbers and all that kind of thing, especially in today's baseball age, that makes you feel a lot more excited about what could happen there.
Yeah. It's Um, you just, I don't even know how to quantify it. Um, I without going in a negative route of just we need to just wash away of what had happened. Not that it was entirely terrible, but I think the longevity of it, we probably should have saw more in 23 than we did.
Yeah.
The is 23 the big fallout year?
Yeah.
Am I
Yeah.
correct?
That was
Yes,
terrible. Yeah.
probably saw that because I thought that was more of the outlier. And yes, you competed in the next couple of years, but those were band-aid pieces. 1 year guys moving them out quickly. I agree with you. I mean, I feel like some of the draft picks that you could see coming quickly. I think there's a Doyle. I think there's a Weatherholt. I think those are guys that add interest and intrigue into to what is a refreshing outlook that makes this, it makes it look more enjoyable, and I think that it's a direction that is very welcoming to me.
Yeah. And it feels like probably the organizations learned their lesson from Jordan Walker, right? I mean, that they're going to try to make sure, like, especially Weatherholt is ready before he comes up. Now, it feels like he is. It sounds like he's probably going to be an opening day starter. And that's different, though, than what we even saw with Jordan Walker, right? Because at this point in time, before Jordan Walker's first spring training, we didn't expect him to make the team, right? And now we think Weatherholt can, because Weatherholt has had the experience. He's had the time in Memphis. He's had success in Memphis, and so it does feel like the approach is different, and hopefully that will pay off a lot.
Yeah, that's just in a situation where you see a potential infield, or not necessarily just infield of a lineup of Weatherholt, Gorman, Burleson. It would be awesome if a Donovan was involved in that.
Yeah.
Just to see it run out every day. That's there's some excitement levels to me. Like the overall optimist, sometimes one can kind of cloud my vision on some things.
Mm-hmm.
When you read more about the automated balls and strikes and those things come in about what they feel like that could be a huge benefit to Newt Bar. Well, I'd kind of given up on him as a Cardinal. Now I'm thinking, well, have we ever seen him at his best? Is that something we want to see? Is it like, hey, let's hold on to see what happens? I don't want that to be. I don't want the Newt Bar coming back to be a reason to trade Burleson and or Donovan.
Right.
But if he was the one that's left of the three because they moved him and got a heck of a good deal back on the other guys, well, then I can live with that. And it's one of those. Is there a situation where Contreras moves out to where it can be a situation where you have Burleson, Donovan, and Newt Bar with a Scott Gorman or a Scott Walker and Weatherholt? That's pretty exciting. And then you get into a deal where, I mean, is Herrera your catcher? Is Herrera your DH? Is Herrera your split time DH first baseman? And, you go maybe a Crooks and somebody else fast. I mean, yeah, your rotation is going to be weak and you may not be great, but there's some energy in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not overly confident that all three of them come back, though. As a matter of fact, I'm confident that it's not going to happen.
Yeah. What worries me about Newt Bar is we keep talking about the potential, right? And
it's such a dirty word, really.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of it was okay. Well, he wasn't healthy, and then this year he plays. I mean, granted, he had the surgery at the end of the year. We don't know how much that affected him, but he did play more than he ever has, right? And we still didn't necessarily see it. Now, again, I don't know how much. Somebody may find out how much the heel injuries and stuff bothered him. I can imagine it did. But I just don't know when, I think we've seen it before where this guy has lots of potential, and it just never comes to fruition.
Yeah.
I hope that's not with the case with Newt Bar. I'd love to see that happen. yeah, he may not be here, but we'll find out. But I don't know. I don't. I would be I would be very hesitant to put a whole lot of chips in that basket, I
Sure.
guess, is what I'm getting at. So,
Well, and a concerning part of that to me of what you just said is
mm.
I feel like your confidence is low in Newt Bar and Walker. It's
Yeah, I
hard
mean,
not to
yeah,
be. I'm not. I'm not.
yeah,
I'm not
yeah. No,
arguing
yeah,
it.
I get you. No,
Yeah.
I wonder. It's like I was thinking about the rotation, and it's like, okay, if the Cardinals gave their offseason homework to Andre Palante, if he comes back and it looks more like what he did in 24, okay, you feel a bit better about this rotation, right? If he looks the same as he did in 25, then oh my goodness. And I
Yes.
think that's the same thing with Jordan Walker. I mean, and there's still a lot there. There's still potential, but can he? What's it going to take for him to find it? He is. Oh well, he's still too young, and he is. I mean, he's still very young, and there's still a chance. But then how I think we both know you get old fast. And I don't know, how much you can hold on to that. I haven't watched, I saw the headline. I saw a little bit about Bernie had out. He thinks that Jordan Walker should spend all year in Memphis, this coming year. And I definitely think that Jordan Walker needs to start in Memphis. I don't know that he will, although I think it's possible with this organization now. I don't
Sure.
think he would have under Mo, but I think it's possible. But it also depends on how he comes in. What did they give him to look at? What is how is he supposed to be approaching his off season? What does he do? Um, I don't know. Again, you can't necessarily. This is part of his problem. You based a lot of it on a spring training. You hate to do that, but if he's made adjustments and he's got the experience, maybe that's enough. But yeah, I mean, I haven't given up on Jordan Walker, but I'm a lot lower on him than I used to be. And
Sure.
I was always bigger on Mason Wynn than Jordan Walker anyway, just because Mason Wynn's a shortstop and all that.
Yeah.
I will say that I'm about, a hair's breadth from giving up on Nolan Gorman. But, I also know that if you trade him off this year, one, you trade him low, and two, he'll go off and hit 40 home runs somewhere.
Yeah. I I agree with that. I agree with that. I mean, and it's one of those to me that I was kind of ready to move on from Gorman last year as well. I
Mhm.
do think that there's that potential to where he does go, and they're just like, oh man, egg on your face, Cardinals. He killed it somewhere else. But I do think that maybe you've seen enough to
Yeah.
where if the deal is right and if teams see that potential, that's a move that you probably have to make to clear space for somebody. I think that you're at a spot now to where you can't block Weatherholt one way or the other.
Yeah.
That may not be a block until potentially June. And I think June is one of those that's just I'm just throwing that out there, but I think the Weatherholt's there early, and I mean early as in March.
Yeah.
The I think that you're going to have to clear that pathway. The knee jerk reaction to me of seeing Walker for a full year in Memphis, I want to be like, oh, that's dumb. But then I'm like, well, no, it's not. Because what happens? I mean, one, I still think they see the potential there. And that they're just like, okay, listen, this was done wrong. Go down there, dominate, keep learning that position, and be who you are. Be the athlete that you are. You were rushed here for the headline. The On the flip side, and my mind kind of races on this. Is it one of those situations to where your Gormans, your Walkers, your potentially Newt Bar are caught up now in a situation of we've attached them to Mo and this regime so much that
Yeah.
even if they're moved and succeed somewhere else, they did need to be moved so everything could truly refresh.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point. I think there is something to that of them always being part of the last group, that last group of Mo versus the first group of Heim. Um, I think there's something to that. I will say I'm probably controversial. I would keep Nolan Arenado and trade Nolan Gorman this year. I Partly that's personal preference, partly because I think that even what we've seen out of Nolan Arenado lately could be more valuable to a team than to what Nolan Gorman can give. Now, again, if he clicks and hits 40 homers, great. But I also don't know that that's going to happen. I don't know that's going to happen in Busch Stadium, especially. So I would do that. I would trade Donovan and Gorman and let Weatherholt take second base. Because I think that's probably where he
Yeah,
plays best. But I also don't expect that to actually happen either. So
sure.
anyway. All right. And before we get out of here, we have to talk about the biggest loss in Cardinal Nation over this winter. I mean, Sonny Gray was bad, but losing Katie Woo out to the Dodgers, that's gonna be felt for a while. Katie has made her presence known in St. Louis by her writing, by her engagement. She's always been very gracious to be on this show once in the winter, and has just been a breath of fresh air. I think. I mean, St. Louis has always had very good media coverage. Still does. But Katie was something different, and I'm very interested to see if and who will replace her at the Athletic. But it's going to be quite the gap to have to try to fill.
Yeah, it's a sad loss. I mean, I felt like you've been calling it for a while that she was due to move on, and whether that was going to be on a national level, which essentially with the Dodgers, it's going to be on a national level.
Right? Yeah.
But yeah, good for her. She's from the West Coast anyway. But that was great coverage and a very, very engaging beat, and approachable, which was refreshing. It made it on the show every year, correct? That she'd been here.
Yeah.
Yep.
The first time she had been on the job like 5 weeks, because she got the job late in 21 spring training, and I still remember we talked at, I think it was right after the season started, maybe, and she was sitting in an apartment that was barely furnished.
Yeah.
Is still kind of getting settled, and joined every year after that. And was always gracious with her time and everything. So, and I pointed this out. I wrote a Substack late, and I have this at the end of it and put it out on Twitter. But you notice, I mean, we did the top cards on Twitter, and that's a big thing. I mean, it's not a big thing, but it was a judge, a gauge of popularity. And Katie, won it the first 3 years she was in it. Partly because Gifts wasn't available. I mean, he'd already won his Hall of Fame, but to just come in and immediately make that kind of impression on a fan base, and to keep it. And, I'm sure not everybody loved her for sure, but I think for the most part, she had a really good reputation. And yeah, we wish her best in Los Angeles. I imagine that, she's still going to be covering national stories as well. We've seen a lot of that. Saw her riding the playoffs this year. So we'll see a lot more of that, but hopefully to the best. Hopefully we get somebody more like Katie and less like some of the other new people that have come into St. Louis media, MLB.com. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully that all works out. Anything else that I've missed out on, Alan, before we wrap up today?
How did the lighting ceremony go? Can you give us a rundown? And have you blown any fuses?
I've not blown any fuses. No breakers have been tripped, which probably means I haven't done enough. Everything
there's always a goal for next year.
That's right. Everything came on. No, I just realized 5 years ago I had to get a whole new breaker box. I don't want to do that again.
Was that 5 years ago? Wow.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was.
Time flies.
But it does. But yeah, everything's good. Put some pictures on the Substack, on Twitter, and all this kind of stuff. And now we're trying to finish up the inside and then getting ready for the big Christmas party. So, Alan and I should be back at you hopefully next week, because see what happened at the winter meetings and what kind of trades and everything that got moved. And then that might be it for the year. We'll have to see how things play out. But Until then, for Alan, I'm Daniel. Good night.
Good night.
Alisea, the second for one, the double play. What a double play by Ozzie Smith. Oh, mercy.